Hi there, and welcome to my process video for The Doctors Are In. The Doctors Are In is a collaboration series with Irit Landgraf, where two scrappers who happen to be doctors in their real life jobs from two different continents, we show you two different takes on solutions to what ails your creative body and soul. This time we are doing some rejuvenation therapy, which means we're diving into the depths of our stash and picking some older supplies and trying to rejuvenate them by using them with current photos and sometimes giving them a new spin and sometimes just using them as they are. So make sure that you check out the videos that Irit has done. We each have a kit video where we show you what supplies we're using, and then we each have two process videos. And this is the clinic for the month of July. And if you're interested in previous clinics, you can find those in the playlist, which is linked in the information section below. So let's get started on this layout. So here I am just having a look through the photos that I have and putting aside the ones that I'm not going to be using today, and I'm going to trim down the one that I'm using. It's just a little bit smaller than 4x6, and I just used my Creative Memories trimmer for that. And now I want to take a look at this mixture of paper. These are sassafras papers from a whole bunch of different lines. I really like that lime green off on the side, and I love this collection with the owls in it. I forget what it's called, but I have a whole lot of it. And I also have another one that's got kind of like woodland deer and stuff in it that I think is a different collection than, I think it's called Life is Beautiful, the one with the deer. And so I'm picking out, basically I'm looking for anything that has, there's lots of prominent green and prominent blue and hits of yellow. And so I'm basically looking for some primary colors here. So any primary colors I'm picking. And that paper right there with that I just covered up with the stripes, the one with the little tiny triangles all over it, is perfect. It's exactly what I'm looking for. So that's going to be my inspiration for all of the rest of it once I found that. I'm also grabbing some stickers because I know I'm going to want to do some journaling on them. I love the sassafras journaling stickers. They're really large, and I especially really like the round ones. So I grabbed a couple of sheets of those so that I could have a few different options. I accidentally put all my paper back together again after I had separated out the paper I wanted, so I had to separate it again there. So now I'm just talking to you because I realized I had forgotten to say something in my kit video, so I went back and inserted that, so you're not missing anything here. And now I'm just kind of going through and well, what I'm explaining is how I used a filter on my photos that made everything pop and increase the contrast. And I did that so that these photos would be able to compete with some of the really strong design elements that I'm pretty sure I'm going to have to put in this layout. Because sassafras has so many beautiful patterns, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to be combining lots of patterns. And so I'm going to want to use some really strong, bold hits of black and contrast in the design of my page. So I want my photo to not disappear in all of that. Now, I love this rainbow paper. Look, it matches my watch. I love that rainbow paper. It's not exact. I don't think it's the exact right order of a rainbow, but I really like it a lot. And I really like it as a matte. I think it makes an interesting matte because it's not too busy. And I really wanted my matte to not be too busy because I think all the other elements on this page will be busy. So I matted my paper in that rainbow, kind of like broad strips of color. And then I'm further matting it on this black. And that is to give my photo just a little bit more weight and emphasis on this page that I'm pretty sure is going to have a lot of pattern kind of all together. So this is my inspiration paper. So as I mentioned a few minutes ago, this is the paper that really caught my eye as being perfect for this page. So I'm starting with that because I love it and I definitely want it to be on the page. So it's going to be my main piece of patterned paper, and I'm just using my ruler to tear a straight edge. And I'm not worrying too much about, I mean, I want it to be pretty much right angles, but I'm not worrying too much if it's a little bit off. Now, this green paper is not quite the right shades of green anymore. And I want to put a strip at the top and a strip at the bottom, but none of those are really working. But this paper, it actually has deer in it. But if I if I cut it into strips, you won't see the deer. I really like the color of it. Now this one is nice too, but that one with the tight daisy pattern with some red on it is just a little bit too heavy for the idea that I have for this page. So this one, because it has so much white, it's actually like an off-white background. It is a lighter and airier pattern, and it's going to work better than that heavy. See the big paper that's showing right now, the turquoise one with red? That would be just too strong and too dark and a little bit dingy compared to some of the other papers that are here. Some sassafras paper has a real dirty, dingy, kind of very vintage look to it, and so that's one of the challenges of mixing sassafras patterns, is that you could have some that have a real white look and some that have a real yellowy look. Almost brown even around the edges. So I grabbed some of the strips. One of the wonderful things about sassafras is all those beautiful edges that the paper come with. So I thought if I'm scrapping with sass, if I'm doing some sassy scrapping, I'm going to want to use those borders. So I cut 3 of them. And as you see, I'm layering them on the top and on the bottom with the strips that I had from that paper, the turquoise paper that has deer. And now I wanted something to tone down those triangles in the background, and so I cut myself or tore myself a strip of the blue. It reads as a solid. It's like a funky blue retro pattern with little circles on it, circles and lines. And so I cut that, and then I put it on the vertical just to balance off with the horizontal rectangle that I have with the triangle paper. And so this is going to be the general structure of this page. It's all laid out right now. I just have to glue it together and do a few things to it to increase the contrast and interest and to separate some of these busy patterns. So I have these like the rainbow, scalloped rainbow at the bottom, and then that turquoise deer paper that you lose the deers when you cut a strip, and then that bubbly brownish kind of top, bottom layer. Well, it's on the top, but it's tucked underneath of everything else. And now on the top here, I'm just going to do the turquoise deer paper and then also a green kind of fancy border piece there. And those 2 innermost borders, so the one that's all bubbly and also the one that's like a fancy scrolly border at the top, they're both already outlined. Like they have like a fake inked edge look to them. So I'm just going to leave them. I'm not going to outline them myself or anything because they're already outlined, but I am outlining along the edges of the turquoise deer paper. And now I'm going to take all of my pieces of paper and I'm going to run them through my sewing machine. So I have my half-size Kenmore sewing machine here, which I have threaded with black thread on the top and the bottom. And I just keep it over to the side, and then I keep it plugged in, but not like plugged into the wall, but not plugged into the machine. And I keep the plugs underneath of my workspace, so I can just grab my machine, bring it over, and then reach down below my workspace and pull up the 2 ends of the cords. One cord goes to the power supply, and one cord goes to the foot pedal. And so that's what I do with that. I'm sorry that the footage here is kind of hazy. There was a fingerprint on my phone, and so I apologize for that. I forgot to check. So I'm just using my sewing machine and doing some black stitching all the way around the edge. And I love black stitching. I'm using it more these days. Like almost every time I stitch, it's black stitching these days. I just love the contrast that it looks, and I love the kind of I guess casual stitch look that it gives you. So I'm going around the outside edges of both of my chunks of pattern paper, and then I ran out of bobbin. So I just went and replaced it off. I just cut that part out because it's a little bit boring. I am going to make a video where I show how to thread a machine. I have 3 different machines that I can show you what all the different, like that's not all the different machines in the world, but it'll show you how to thread a couple of different machines so that you get a sense of how it is. That's a commonly requested video, so I do plan to do that for you guys soon. So I'm just adding a little bit of back and forth stitching using my back stitch button at the edges of these strips. And these strips I'm sewing a zigzag pattern along the bottom of each of them, and then also a straight stitch along the edge of it as well. And then I'm going back and adding, as I mentioned, some back and forth stitching in what will end up being opposite corners. So I'm going to have to take a look at them before I do that, just to make sure you'll see me there. See, I took the other one just to see where it was lining up, so I could make sure that this was going to be on the opposite side compared to the other one. And so there we go, those are finished. And then I thought at the last minute, I think I'll add just a little bit more visual interest to the corners of these other strips of paper. And then my needle, I don't know what happened, but it got unthreaded, so I just had to fix that. And just a little bit more back and forth and a little bit more zigzag. And I'm going to do that on 3 different corners of this triangle paper. It adds to the kind of casual look, I guess, of this paper and of the layout in general. And when I cut my thread ends, I'm not cutting them terribly close so that there's a little bit of edge, like just a little bit of stray edges of threads sticking out. And I originally was going to put little bundles of thread every here and there on this page, but once I did this amount of sewing in this way, I felt like it already had enough little stray edges of thread sticking out in different places, so I decided to just leave it. And for some reason, I keep sewing without putting the thread where it's supposed to go, so it keeps coming unthreaded. That's like user error right there. It's not my machine being stubborn or anything. So I only added the interest to 1 corner of the blue paper and to 3 corners of the triangle colorful paper. And I just didn't want to overdo it. And I know that very little of the blue paper is showing, so there's no need to really put lots and lots of stitching in there. Okay, so we're a little bit back in time here. Sorry about that. I didn't cut this very well, but let's just go with it. There. So now I'm going to put my machine away, and I just leave the cords, as I mentioned, just plugged in, and I just throw them on the floor below me, and I will pick them up again later when I go to add a little bit more stitching to this project. So I really like how this is looking. It's really nice structure, and yes, it's very, very busy, and that is the case with this brand of paper. So if you're going to use multiple pieces of sassafras paper, it's going to be quite patterned. Like your page is going to have a lot of patterning and interest in it. And so that's something to keep in mind if you're not big on combining this many pattern papers together. You could tone this down a little bit by just using 1 piece of sassafras paper and use the rest from a more plain or less busy collection, or use cardstock and that sort of thing. Or you could use a couple of patterns instead of quite this many. I really like this look though, and we're encouraging you guys to dive into your stash. And if you don't have sassafras, this is not necessarily, I mean, we both happened to choose sassafras. We kind of coordinated it. Once I heard that Irit was doing sassafras, I said, we got to make this a sassy clinic because I love sassafras. So I will take any excuse to use it. But we understand that you might not have sassafras in your stash because it's not for everybody, and it's not a current collection or anything that you can buy right now. So go ahead and dive into your stash and get whatever supplies you have. If you have old October Afternoon, go ahead and use that. If you have old American Crafts or Die Cuts with a View or Amy Tangerine or whatever the case might be, it can be any brand, just dive into your stash and use old supplies. If you're a fairly new scrapbooker, your version of old supplies might be my version of new supplies. So you can go ahead and just use whatever you want. The purpose of the Doctors Are In clinic is to get people scrapbooking. So we don't care what you do. We just want you to watch these videos and then go run to your scrap room and scrapbook your little heart away. That's what we want you guys to do. And that was how this series was born, was out of our talking about, people watching a lot of YouTube videos, but feeling like they can't actually make layouts themselves, or don't have the motivation, or feel intimidated or overwhelmed. So this series is designed to encourage you to use what you have and get your scrap on. So you just saw me spell out first race. Every time I say the word series, my phone thinks that I'm saying, "Hey Siri," and it starts listening to me and writing down everything that I say. Oh my, it's doing it again. Okay, so as I mentioned, I love these circle stickers that come in the Sassafras collections. So I am taking my medium point Lumocolor pen by Stettler, which is a slick surface writer. So because this is a shiny sticker, I need to use a slick surface writer. And one tip for outlining a pinked circle is to do a series of L's instead of trying to outline the pinked circle shape. Like if you think about it as a series of adjacent L's, I find that it's much easier for me to get a nice, neat outline. And I wanted to outline that journaling piece so that it would pop up from the patterns behind it, because I find that it was kind of blending in and wasn't bold enough compared to the, especially the triangle paper behind it that has a lot of the same yellows and oranges in it. I'm really sorry for that really foggy camera angle. And to give it even more definition, I'm double outlining with stitching around the inside of this piece. And what this does is, because stitching is so trendy right now, is the stitching that I'm adding to this page really does update it and make this layout look like it was made today, even though it uses items and supplies from several years ago. So I had put that on my piece of wax paper, and then I stitched through it. So you saw me just tear off the edges of the wax paper. I didn't bother removing the wax paper from the inside, just because that would be too hard to do, and I'll just put some glue over top of it. So now I'm having a look at the embellishments, because I have the structure of my layout in terms of all of the layers of pattern paper are in place. My stitching is in place. I know what my title is going to be, and I have a spot for my journaling now. So now I have to think about what embellishing I'm going to do. I'm actually not going to do a whole lot of embellishing on this page, because look at how busy it is. And I found this arrow, and I'm going to have this arrow point to where Scott is in the lineup. And I thought, that's perfect. I'm so happy about that. And I found out that Scott is actually a little bit further ahead in the line than I thought he was. So I'm going to point in the proper place here. So my journaling says, at the last minute, Scott decided to run the mech race. He is such an inspiration. He changed his lifestyle and took on this challenge bravely. I'm going to do some more journaling, but I'm actually going to put it in a little insert between the 2 pages I'm planning to do this weekend. And so you will see me say more about this because the 2 pages this page and the next page that you'll see are both on the same story, and I will also have an insert for between these 2 pages. So yeah, this is enough journaling for just right here, and I'll add more on that insert. So I'm using some Stampin' Up! Dimensionals to pop that journaling piece up off the page. And because it's outlined, it really does separate it nicely from the elements behind it, and gives it lots of emphasis. And I really like that large circular piece amongst all of these boxy rectangles that are around it. So I like that. It kind of softens it up and gives a little bit more balance and makes it look, I guess just softer. So now I'm going to place these daiquiri letter stickers. Oh my goodness, I love them. One of the things I love about these foam letter stickers, and I didn't have a T, so I just made a T from an L. I was talking about something else, but you probably saw me do it. I made it from an L and a Z. So what I love about those daiquiri letter stickers is that some of them are a strange size. So the R's are noticeably smaller than some of the other letters. And I think that's kind of quirky and makes your titles look interesting and kind of like they have a bit of a bouncy feel to them. And so I'm going to put very few. I want to use that bluebird so much. I love that little bluebird. He's so cute, but he's not going to make it onto this layout. So I added a star here because I felt like I wanted 3 embellishments, and I had those 2 layered flowers from the embellishment set. And then I added the orange star. Now down here, I'm going to put at the diagonal corner, at the diagonally opposite corner, I'm going to put another star and 2 more flowers. But in the process, I'm just kind of moving things around a little bit, and I ripped the paper as I moved that, but I was only trying to shift it over a little tiny bit, so it's okay. And then I'm just going to decide to just only put one flower and one star over there instead of a set of 3, because it was just like there wasn't the space, and it doesn't always have to be 3. So I just left it at that. And here I am thinking it has to be 3, and that star is way too white compared to everything else on the page. So I'm not going to use that. And then no, I'm not going to use that either. It's too similar to the other star. And but basically the reason I'm fussing with this is that there's more space in the top left-hand corner than there is in the bottom right-hand corner. And so I want to kind of fill that space up a little bit, but I'm going to do something at the very end about that. Now I'm going to outline the stars just because they're made out of paper that blends in with the background. Like it's not shiny paper, it's matte paper, more like regular paper. So I'm outlining it just to give it a little bit more emphasis and to separate it a bit from the paper behind it. And now I'm going to use some enamel dots here. I'm going to take like a citrusy yellowy green for one of the flowers, and then put a blue one on the other flower. Basically, I wanted blue up there because those embellishments are all orangey and red, so I needed something blue up there. And then the stars add a real dynamic feel to this page, so I wanted to add some more stars. And these black stars, because they're black, they add really nice pops of contrast, and they're from Studio Calico. And then I decided to add a little heart to below my journaling and beside the flower. I like that little black heart. I actually like that black heart better than the red heart that I end up using. So I tried pink, I tried black, and now I'm going to go with red because there's more red than anything else on this page. So it didn't make sense to add pink. Adding some modern elements like enamel dots. It would be great to put those acrylic pieces, like those chunky little acrylic pieces or rubber pieces. I didn't do that on this page, but that would be another really great way to update an older collection, is to pair it with some more current trendy types of embellishments from the scrapbooking industry. And so here are the close-ups as far as, close-up video footage goes, so that you can get a look at how everything looks up close. And I do have some photos to share with you guys as well. I really, really love how this page looks. I wasn't sure as I was putting it together if these patterns were going to be just a little bit too much, but with the black stitching to separate everything and all of the kind of bold black elements from the title to the stars to the black mat around the photo and then the black stitching, I think that kind of pulls together when you have a whole bunch of crazy patterns thrown together. Adding black in between them in whatever way you can really does a great job of pulling disparate types of patterns together and making them look like they look like they go, because they're all from Sassafras. They're not all from the same collection, but it's so easy to put together patterns when you use the same manufacturer or the same collection. So this has been the Doctors Are In. This is my first process video. If you missed my kit video, make sure you check it out. There's some links here to the other videos from this series. So thanks so much for watching, and have a really great, scrappy, rejuvenating weekend.